This meeting is being recorded and streamed via social media. Good afternoon, councillors, staff and members of the public. Please be upstanding for the Mayor, Councillor Straub.
Thank you all. Our council affirmation is: we, the councillors of Loddon Shire, declare that we'll carry out our duties in the best interest of our community and through collective leadership will maintain the highest standards of good governance.
The Loddon Shire Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land upon which we are gathered and pays its respects to their elders both past and present. Please be seated.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald, and welcome all to our March Council meeting. We do apologise for the delay in today's live stream. We had experienced a few digital interruptions, but we are now live and would like to welcome all of those who are joining us today via that live stream, and welcome all councillors and staff to the chamber for today's March Council meeting. Now, we do have to note under our apologies that Councillor Wilson isn't with us, but at our February Council meeting, Councillor Wilson was granted a leave of absence until the 27th of April. So just noting that, no further action needed. Councillors, is there any conflicts of interest to disclose from any of today's item agenda? No? Thank you all. Moving on to our previous minutes, the confirmation of minutes. I'll take those minutes as being read, ask if there's any questions, queries or comments regarding the minutes of our February meeting. If not, I'll ask if there's a councillor prepared to move that those minutes be true and correct. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Show of hands in favour. And those minutes are carried. 6.1, the record of Council's auspice meetings. Mr Fitzgerald, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council's governance rules require a record of meetings conducted under the auspices of Council to be presented to the next available scheduled meeting for confirmation. As you will see, attached to this report is a list of 4 items which were discussed at the February briefing and 11 items which were discussed at the March forum, along with a bit more detail. The recommendation is that Council confirm the records of the following auspiced meetings as detailed within this report. 1, the Councillor briefing held 24 February 2026, and 2, the Council forum held 10 March 2026. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Any questions, councillors? If not, I'll ask if there's a councillor prepared to move those auspice meetings record. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Holt. A show of hands in favour, and those records are carried. Item 7.1, the review of our actions. Mr Fitzgerald again, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, as a matter of transparency and accountability, this report has long been presented to councillors. This report includes a document containing the status of actions associated with council resolutions. As you will note, all 5 actions arising from the February Council meeting resolutions have been acted upon. We still have 1 outstanding action relating to the priorities document, which we continue to work on with councillors and we hope to bring to finalisation in the coming months. Thank you, Mr Mayor. The recommendation here is that Council receive and note the status of Council resolution actions as attached to this report.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgerald. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Holt, no. Councillor Holt prepared to move. Thank you. Councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. A show of hands in favour. Excellent, that is carried. That concludes the first opening agenda items. So we will now move into our reports, and I will start with the mayoral report. And this month I wanted to touch on just a couple of key points over this past month. Firstly, The Murray River Group of Council's first official meeting of the year took place on the 5th of March in Echuca. We discussed a lot of topics that you've heard me speak a lot on in the past, but mainly once again the Murray-Darling Basin plan and the current review process. There will be more to come when we move through that with Murray River Group, but also there'll be more to come with Council too, as Council moves to put a submission forward. I wanted to also touch base on the Wedderburn Detector Jamboree. I was very fortunate enough to go along to the Wedderburn Detector Jamboree on the Sunday to present the Loddon Shire sponsored award or trophy, and once again a record crowd. And I know that this has been a long-standing tradition in Wedderburn. You talk March long weekend, you automatically think of the Wedderburn Detector Jamboree, and very impressive events. And we do thank those very dedicated volunteers that have put that on over a number of years. I'd also like to make mention of the very special presentation on the Saturday, unveiling those statue silhouettes of the founders of the Wedderburn Jamboree event, but also the founders of that Hard Hill Reserve and the Eucalyptus Stew Pot. Very great dedication, and I'm sure all involved were very moved with that display of retribution to those important people in our community. And I want to touch on the sad passing of Mr. Graham Thomas. Many will know Graham as a local Campbell's Forest community member who had a very lucrative trucking business. He would have been to many, many farms and properties around Loddon Shire, and I just want to send out my sympathies to the Thomas family, and very saddened to hear of that tragic passing. In saying that, councillors, I'm going to conclude my mayoral report for today, and we'll ask if there's a councillor prepared to move that mayoral report in its brief rendition. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Holt. A show of hands in favour. Thank you, councillors. Moving along to our council law reports, and today I will start with Councillor Weaver, please, over to my right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 14th of March, I attended as guest speaker the Probus meeting in Boort and had a lovely afternoon tea. The levy bank's pretty much completed in Boort, and it's an absolute credit to the designers, the earth moving contractors, and the Shire staff, everyone involved. It's an excellent piece of work. There's a couple of little things just to tick off and then it's done. The February rain was pretty big, as best you could describe it, in Boort. I think over 8 days we had 195 mil at our place, and I want to congratulate Shire staff on getting up there as quickly as they could to help with three houses got inundated with water, mainly due to one of the railways culverts blocking and water getting over a road. But Shire have done planning, and they're well into the planning process of fixing that up so it can't happen again. So well done to those people. I attended the Boort Trotting and Pacing Cup, which was a great day. We've got the Boort Easter Art Show coming up, which is always a great thing, and the big Easter tennis tournament. Easter's pretty big in Boort. On a downside, there's been some what you could call vandalism, criminal activity by duck activists in the area, including cutting of a fence and a section of fence removing, which happened to belong to my family. There were sheep in the paddock. This sort of behaviour cannot be condoned. They also cut off starter cords off people's boats in camps at Lake Liaga. It just highlights the problem that the lack of police in Boort at the moment. is putting the community at some risk. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Weaver, for that report. I will move along to Councillor Angelo, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. On the 25th of February, I attended a Newbridge Hall Committee meeting, a new changeover, new committee. So I wish you all the best of luck for your next 3-year term. 21st of March. What a gem of a day, the Eddington Sprints. It's 41 years and still going. Free event for the family. I certainly had a lot of fun there, and everyone else seemed to as well. They were cooking flat out on the barbecue, so great to see. I'll take me hat off to all involved with that down in Eddington. I'm just sorry on just me notes. On the 22nd of March, I attended I'm trying to think of the right word for it. It was a book, it was a new book that's been brought out all on orchids, and it's all it was Kunya Friends invited me. Now, yeah, I didn't know anything about orchids beforehand, but I tell you what, we've got a lot of different varieties here in Loddon Shire. So the book, basically the gentleman worked from 8k radius of Riola, and there was spider orchids and really good event. I learnt heaps. So if any of you are watching, you did a top-notch show with that. And that's it from me. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Angelo. And we'll finish with Councillor Holt, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Something I would like to highlight for this past month, Mr Mayor, has been on the 12th of March, I attended a meeting of Municipal Association of Victoria delegates. And as we know, there is a Victorian state election later this year, 28th of November, I think it is. And we, of course, will be putting forward our priorities to government for that election. But what I did want to mention, Mr Mayor, is that the MAV has unveiled its state election pillars, and their key theme is the future is local. And I think we can all relate to that, Mr Mayor. But their election priorities, now of course the MAV represents a very diverse group of people from the Melbourne City Council down to the smallest rural. So they are challenged. They are challenged in their areas of focus and trying to support such a diverse range of councils. There is, of course, a diverse range of priorities. But their 5 election pillars are growing futures, which was delivering essential infrastructure to support connected and growing communities. I think Loddon Shire can relate to our challenges in providing essential community infrastructure. Number 2 was local futures, strengthening community resilience and supporting safer, democratic and diverse local leadership. And I think we can all relate to the fact that local leadership across all of our organisations in Loddon is becoming a challenge and related to the whole issue of volunteerism. Productive futures, supporting economic activity through better local road and transport connections. And given the position of the cost of roads to us in the Loddon budget, anything that can happen to assist us in our huge challenge of managing our over 4,000 kilometres of road is to be appreciated. Regenerative futures, engaging communities in the energy transition and advocating for fairer, cleaner energy solutions. And we'll be discussing something in relation to that later today. And finally, transformative futures, addressing the financial sustainability of local government, and I think we'll be having something to say about that in our election priorities document. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holtz. And yes, as mentioned in our action list, we are still working on our priorities document and we'll have that finalised. But I think from Councillor Holt's words and referencing the MAV priorities, that is very pleasing to see the consistency with our peak bodies in this space. MAV, rural councils, Murray River Group yet to formulate priorities, but I think the consistency is very beneficial to Loddon, and I thank you for your input into the MAV's production of their priorities document. In saying that, I'll ask if there's a councillor prepared to move that those council reports be tabled. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. A councillor to second. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Thank you. A show of hands in favour, and those reports are carried. Thank you very much. Once again, we are all quite busy, and we take the opportunity to report on a small portion of what we actually get up to within each month, but it is great to keep the community informed, and I thank you for that. We will move on to our decision reports, and councillors, we have 6 reports for decision today. Our first decision report is 10.1, and 10.1, councillors, is the adoption of the Budget Management and Principles Policy, and I'll invite, please, Director Steadman to deliver the report and the recommendation attached. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Councillors, this report today presents the draft Budget Management and Principles Policy for Council's consideration. This newly developed policy works to formalise the principles and governance framework that sit behind how we develop, review and manage the annual budget process. While many of these practices are already in place, this brings them together into a single, clear and consistent framework that enables the community to clearly see what is considered by Council during this important work and the principles for which Council strive for. The draft policy outlines 10 principles across 4 areas covering all aspects of our financial position and has been workshopped with councillors, reviewed by the Audit and Risk Committee and refined in line with that consultation to ensure it supports transparency, strong financial governance and alignment with the council plan and long-term financial planning. Councillors, the recommendation with you today is that Council adopts the Budget Management and Principles Policy version 1. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Steadman. Councillors, opportunity for any questions? If not, I'll ask a councillor prepared to move to the recommendation that Council adopts this version 1 of the Budget Management and Principles Policy. Councillor Angelo to move, thank you. Do I have a councillor prepared to second? Councillor Weaver, thank you. Councillor Angelo, would you like the opportunity to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Weaver as a seconder? No. Councillor Holt, would you like the opportunity to speak?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'd just like to reiterate what Officer Steadman just said, that this basically formalises practices that have long been followed at Loddon, but given that the formulation and adoption of the annual budget is one of the biggest, if not the biggest things that we do annually, and where there could be any discussion around how we went about producing that budget, we do now have a formalised set of principles to be followed to give consistency to how we both construct present and adopt our budget. I reiterate again that this is something that we can alter at any subsequent time if we find that there are some things in here that aren't achieving the desired outcome. But I think this is an excellent piece of work. I see it's authorised by our Manager of Financial Services. The author is our Manager of Financial Services, Natalie Martin, and authorised by our Director of Corporate, Michelle Stedman. And I think this is an excellent piece of work, Mr Mayor, that can only enhance the good governance of the Shire of Ronnin. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. In that case, I'll ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll move along to 10.2, the adoption of the asset naming policy. And I'll ask, please, Acting Director Southcombe to take us through the recommendation and the report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm pleased to present the reviewed asset naming policy for adoption. Since the current policy was adopted, legislative requirements and external guidelines, particularly those administered by Geographic Names Victoria, have evolved. It is important that Council's policy framework remains current and aligned with these requirements. Officers have undertaken a review of the policy to ensure it reflects the Geographic Place Names Act 1998 and the naming rules for places in Victoria 2022. The updated policy clarifies Council's role in the naming and renaming of assets, strengthens governance and consultation processes, and ensures consistency across Council systems and public records. The recommendation before you is that Council adopts the reviewed asset naming policy. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Acting Director Southcombe. Councillors, opportunity for any questions? No, just noting that the review was triggered by some substantial changes to the Victorian legislation that has formed the review and the new formulation of our policy. Do I have a councillor prepared to move to the naming policy? Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Do I have a councillor to second? Thank you again, Councillor Weaver. Councillor Angelo, opportunity to speak to the motion.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Great document. Hats off to all involved. And it's good to see that these documents keep getting updated and keeping up with the times. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Weaver?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
I'll ask for, Councillor Holt, any other, no comments? I'll ask for a show of hands in favour. And that is carried. Thank you, councillors. 10.3, the review of the financial reserve policy. And I'll ask, please, Director Stedman to take us through that report.
Thank you again, Mayor Straub. Councillors, with you in this report is the result of a recent review of Council's financial reserves policy. This revised version reflects Council's annual review process of reserve structures with a view to ensuring reserves remain in alignment with Council's priorities and to minimise unnecessarily constraining funds. The revised policy also considers advice regarding maintaining alignment between the reserves policy and the Australian Accounting Standards Board requirements. The policy for your consideration today proposes the closure of 8 reserves and refines maximum balance limits on our Caravan Park Development Reserve, as well as clarifying the purpose of the reserve related to gravel and sand pits. The remaining reserves work to maintain resources for council priorities, and balances from reserves proposed for closure are able to be attributed within the budget for projects either already identified or to future projects or initiatives that council identifies through its various strategic planning and budgeting processes. It's noted that the process was supported by an internal review and a review by our internal audit team, and has also been endorsed by Council's Audit and Risk Committee. Councillors, the recommendation with you today on this report is that Council 1 adopts the Financial Reserves Policy version 13 and 2 notes that the Financial Reserves Policy and associated reserve balances will continue to be reviewed annually through the annual budget and financial plan processes to maintain relevance, transparency and alignment with Council's strategic and financial objectives. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Steadman. Councillors, opportunity for any questions, queries or comments at this stage? If not, I'll ask if there's a councillor prepared to move a motion. Thank you, Councillor Angelo has moved to the recommendation. Do I have a councillor to second? Thank you, Councillor Holt. Councillor Angelo, opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. A lot of to and fro with this one. A lot of work's going into this, and plenty of forward and back. So hopefully, we'll see. I think this will. I think they've made some good changes, and we'll see how it all works. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Holt as a seconder, opportunity to speak.
Mr Mayor, we as councillors are the custodians of the finances of the Loddon Shire. Council doesn't have any money. The people of Loddon have the money, and we have to manage it for them. Now, I've long had in our discussions here some misgivings about tinkering with how Loddon Shire has used reserves over a long period of time, because how we have done that has served us very well, and has been part of the fact that relatively speaking, we are in a good financial position, and has also contributed to Loddon being able to, over many years, deliver many significant projects. It amazes me really what we've been able to achieve with the limited resources we have. And part of the reason we've been able to do that is clever use of financial reserves. However, officers have, I was going to say almost convinced me, but have convinced me, Mr Mayor, that it's time for some changes, and I'm prepared to accept those changes, and in fact now I'm endorsing them because I'm seconding the motion. We just need to be comfortable that this decision is in the best long-term interest of Loddon. And I remind everybody, of course, that if councillors were to come to the view that some of these changes were not in the best interests of Loddon Shire, we can always change them. So, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to road test them and happy to support what officers are suggesting regarding alterations to our reserve policy. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. Councillor Weaver, opportunity to speak for or against?
Councillor Holt's covered it very well.
I do think so, and I think just in closing, Council did execute a number of arguments regarding this policy as we moved forward to make sure that we were working and hitting those high benchmarks that we've had in the past. We do a lot with a little, and as it's been explained by Councillor Holt, the responsible execution of that reserves when needed has been a saviour for a lot of Loddon's projects, and we do attribute that to the very, very smart thinking of councillors past. And we, at this stage, are moving on to adopt this new version, and we will see how that works in the coming timeframes. So in saying that, I'll ask for a show of hands in favour. And that is carried. Thank you, councillors. 10.4, the appointment of the Audit and Risk Committee Chair. I'll ask again, Director Stedman, please, to deliver that report and its recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor Straub. Councillors, following the recommendation of the Audit and Risk Committee, Council is today being asked to consider the appointment of Marg Allen as chairperson for the 26-27 term. Marg has been an independent member since 2023, bringing extensive experience in governance, local government and financial oversight. Her leadership will ensure continuity in the committee's role in monitoring Council's financial and risk management practices. The recommendation with you today, councillors, is that Council, on the recommendation of the Audit and Risk Committee, appoint Marg Allen as the chairperson of the Loddon Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee for the period 1 April 2026 to 28 February 2027. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Stedman. Councillors, there you have it. The recommendation in front of us there to appoint Marg Allen as the chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee. Is there any questions at this stage? If not, I'll ask if there is a councillor prepared to move. No, thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor to second this recommendation or motion now. Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Councillor Weaver, I'll give you the opportunity to speak to the motion as the mover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Angelo, opportunity.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor, but we will say good luck to, it was Marg, I think.
Marg Allen, yep.
And congratulations. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And Councillor Holt, opportunity to speak to the motion, if you'd like.
I'll just briefly, Mr Mayor, as Loddon Shire's council delegate to the Audit and Risk Committee, I very much endorse this decision and think it's a positive outcome for Loddon Shire and for the Audit and Risk Committee.
Thank you, councillors. I'll ask for a show of hands in favour. And that is carried. Excellent. Thank you very much. And in saying that, congratulations to Marg Allen as taking on the chair again for the Loddon Shire Audit and Risk Committee. And we do thank all of those members that take part in those Audit and Risk Committee meetings. And again, our council delegate, Councillor Holt. 10.5, this is a little bit of a long heading, but we are looking at our endorsement of the Resource Ready Northwest Victorian Energy and Mining Impact and Readiness Strategy. Now I'm going to ask Mr Fitzgerald to please take us through recommendation, the report firstly, and then followed by the 4-point recommendation we have in front of us today.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I might just refer to it as the readiness strategy for ease of rolling it off the tongue, if you don't mind. Councillors, the readiness strategy provides an independent analysis of the potential impacts from the $27.7 billion worth of planned transmission, renewable energy and mining projects across the 9 northwestern Victorian councils that are mentioned in this report. The study examines the northwestern Victorian region, which includes 9 participating councils, and they're listed in the report. The strategy identifies that the potential scale of renewable energy infrastructure and mining across the study area and identifies the significant workforce demands, including 9,100 construction jobs and 2,300 ongoing operational roles, alongside the critical challenges such as our existing severe housing shortages, our labour market constraints, our infrastructure pressures, and the potential impacts on the region's agricultural sector. Within this strategy, there are 49 actions under 11 key themes to prepare the region to maximise the community benefits and to reduce the negative impacts if major projects are approved by state and federal governments. And I'll just emphasise that, if you don't mind, that these projects aren't approved by council, they are approved by other levels of governments. This strategy is about us being prepared and ready if they occur. Council's endorsement of the strategy wouldn't constitute support for or opposition to any specific projects. Endorsement reflects Council's commitment to plan strategically for the community's economic, social and environmental sustainability. Implementation fundamentally depends on significant external funding that exceeds Council's current resources and a willingness from other levels of government to implement policy change and include local government. The strategy adopts an impartial, analytical approach, prioritising preparedness and impact management rather than promoting or opposing the energy, mining or specific technologies of any specific projects. Council lacks statutory authority over mining and renewable energy projects, which are handled by the state and federal governments through channels like the environmental effects statements and ministerial or mining licence decisions. Nonetheless, Council must assess referrals, comment on local impacts, engage communities, plan for services and infrastructure, and advocate for regional interests. The strategy provides an evidence-based framework for assessing those regional impacts and the gaps in our readiness and the resources that we actually require to get ready. The analysis warns of the risks if major projects lack proper preparation, and I've already mentioned labour shortages. We would have competing priorities around agriculture and our other requirements, as well as housing, housing for construction workers, deterioration of our roads, and so on it goes. Today's proposal is Council's endorsement of the strategy to signal its commitment to collaborating with all government levels and stakeholders to minimise the risks and maximise the benefits if major projects proceed after state or federal approvals. Councillors, there is a lot in this strategy, and I mentioned the number of recommendations within it and the resourcing required. So I may now just read out the recommendation. The recommendation is that Council 1, endorse the resource-ready North Western Victoria Energy and Mining Impact and Readiness Strategy. 2, commit to working with key stakeholders to implement the strategy's recommended actions. 3, advocate to state and federal governments for funding and policy change to implement priority actions identified in the strategy. And 4, notes that successful implementation of this strategy requires substantial external funding and regional coordination well beyond Council's existing resources or decision-making authority. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. A fairly lengthy report and four-part recommendation there in front of us, councillors. Is there any questions at this point? Queries, comments? If not, I'll ask if there is a councillor prepared to move a motion to that effect. Councillor Holt?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move a motion that is very close to the recommended motion. I would like to change the word endorse at the start of the recommendation and replace that with the word note.
Note. Councillors, the motion to change the word endorse to note.
So, Mr. Mayor, that now becomes my motion that I am moving.
Yes. So, Councillor Holt has moved that motion with the changing of that word endorse to note. I'll need a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. That becomes the motion. And Councillor Holt, I'll give you the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. What this motion actually means has been clearly outlined by CEO Fitzgerald. There's just a couple of things I would like to say in moving this motion. With this strategy, we are not supporting or opposing renewable energy or mining projects across Loddon. And we do recognise that there's a divergence of opinion in relation to these projects in renewable energy and mining that are being potentially rolled out across north central Victoria. What we are doing with this strategy is preparing ourselves to try and ensure that we are prepared to produce, or so as to produce, the best outcomes for the Loddon community resulting from these projects. Now the projects have potential both positive and negative effects on the Loddon Shire and all the other 8 councils that are considering this strategy. Things such as the viability of our commercial businesses, issues such as labour shortages, impact on our roads, impact on community infrastructure. If you think about it, there are many possible impacts of these projects on our community, and these are being strongly debated in our community. But what we're trying to do here is to do the best we can to ensure that we are ready for when these projects commence. And also, I think, Mr. Mayor, that the proponents of the projects are also ready to deal with, probably most importantly, the possible negative outcomes that could arise from these projects, and that they are also in a position where they are committed to mitigating any possible negative impacts, whilst also, of course, contributing to any positive impacts. So I think it's important to note, as pointed out by Mr. Fitzgerald, that it's preparedness that we're advocating for here with this strategy. We're not a decision-making body in this area, as has been pointed out by Mr. Fitzgerald. We are not a decision-making body, but as the Loddon Shire Council, we've got to deal with any possible negative impacts, whilst also noting, Mr. Mayor, that there could be positive impacts on our communities as these projects are rolled out. So I think, for that reason, Mr. Mayor, I would support noting this strategy, whilst being very clear about what we are doing here. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. Councillor Weaver is the seconder, and we've got a lot of heavy rain here in Wedderburn today. It's a little hard of hearing in the chamber, so if you could maybe just speak a little louder than usual.
I don't know if that's possible, but thank you, Mr. Mayor. And well spoken, Councillor Holt. As a council, we don't have a say in whether these projects go ahead or not. But what we must do, and it is our duty, is to advocate for the best possible outcomes for our communities. So that is minimising any negatives and maximising the positives as best we can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor Angelo, opportunity to speak to the motion in front of us now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me start by saying I am against the way that the state and federal government has imposed the renewables and the mineral sands on rural communities. Hence the emphasis on this document. This document's had a lot of work done to it to reinforce and look after the community and the infrastructure for everyone living rural. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Angelo. Thank you, councillors, for your contributions there. In just noting before I ask for a show of hands that yes, we are noting this document as a document that prepares community for future possible impacts, but highlights a lot of positives. And I think working in the best interest of our communities, this document is a very important document that spells a lot of this out as we move forward. And as reiterated, we are neither supporting nor opposing any individual project in this document. This is the roadmap to create best outcomes possible for all of their communities that have been imposed on by one project or another. So, councillors, I'm going to ask for a show of hands in favour of noting this resource review document. And that is carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll move along to 10.6, the adoption of the Customer Experience Charter. And I'll ask Director Steadman, please, to take us through the recommendation. This is another document that Council has been very hands-on in formulating over the past months, and we see the final product here today for adoption. So thank you, Director Steadman.
Thank you, Mayor Straub, and certainly I'll try and talk over the very heavy rain, so hopefully you can all hear what I've got to say about this very important piece of work. Councillors, the report presents the draft Customer Experience Charter for Council's consideration. After adoption in late 2025 of the Customer Experience Strategy, Council's first action under this strategy is to consider a revision of the current Customer Service Charter. The new charter is intended to clearly articulate the standard of service our community can expect when interacting with council, as well as the behaviours and principles that guide our staff in those interactions. It's been developed following internal work and councillor engagement and reflects a broader focus on improving consistency, accessibility and responsiveness across our services. Importantly, it provides a foundation for how council measures and continues to improve the customer experience over time. The recommendation for this report, councillors, is that council adopts the Loddon Shire Council Customer Experience Charter. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Steadman. Councillors, we've seen the charter. We've got a recommendation in front of us. Do I have any late questions? If not, I'll ask, please, if there's a councillor prepared to move a motion to the recommendation in front of us. Any councillor? Councillor Angelo, thank you very much. Councillor prepared to second. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor Angelo, opportunity to speak to your motion.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Weaver, no. No. Councillor Holt, no. Thank you, councillors. In saying that, not much more to say. I think at this stage I'll ask for a show of hands in favour, and that is carried. Thank you, councillors. Now, we councillors do not have any information reports today, but we do have one compliance report to finish out today's agenda. 12.1 is the Audit and Risk Committee update, and I'll ask Director Steadman, please, to take us through the updated report and recommendation to follow.
Thank you again, Mayor Straub. Councillors, this report summarises key discussions from the Audit and Risk Committee meeting on the 23rd of February 2026. Topics included review of the Audit and Risk Committee Charter, the Strategic Internal Audit Program and upcoming audit scopes, the External Audit Strategy, the Quarter 2 Financial Report, a review of draft policies already considered by Council today, and a number of other governance and internal control reports. Particularly, the committee provided oversight on the changes to the financial reserves policy considered earlier today by Council, and the committee specifically acknowledged, in line with Councillor Holt's comments earlier, the diligence of past councils in maintaining and growing the financial reserves, which has put Council in a better financial position than many small rural councils. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. The committee also endorsed Marg Allen's nomination as chairperson for the coming year, as previously considered by Council today. I'd also like to take this opportunity, councillors, to formally thank Rod Poxon for his time on the Loddon Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee. Rod has finished at the last meeting his maximum 3 terms over the last 12 years, and we thank him very much for his contributions to Loddon over that time, including his time as chair of the committee. Councillors, the recommendation with you today is that Council receives and notes the summary of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting, 23rd February 2026. Thank you, Mayor Straub.
Thank you, Director Steadman. And on that, I would like to, on behalf of Council, formally thank Mr Rod Poxon for his tenure on the Audit and Risk Committee. 12 years is a long time, and we thank Rod for his contribution over that time and wish him all the best for his next endeavours. Councillors, is there any questions regarding the Audit and Risk Committee February report? I'll ask if there's a councillor prepared to move a motion to the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Holt. A councillor prepared to second. Thank you, Councillor Weaver. Councillor Holt, opportunity to speak to the motion.
I think the report is a comprehensive report, Mr Mayor, and pretty self-evident in what's being said there. And the Audit and Risk Committee continuing to do the valuable work that it does. And could I just briefly also acknowledge, Mr Mayor, the contribution of Rod Poxon over, I think it's a 12-year period, including time spent as chair. Rod has been a valuable contributor to the Audit Committee, and I've had the pleasure of working with him over all of those years. He does ask some very pertinent questions at times, and he's been a very valuable contributor. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. Councillor Weaver, opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
No. Councillor Angelo, opportunity. I'll ask for a show of hands in favour. And that is carried. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we have no confidential items today, and we have no urgent business items today. So we have now addressed all items listed on today's agenda. I thank all for your participation today, and I thank all members of the public for showing interest in council matters, and do apologise for the delay at the start of today's meeting. But we thank you for your patience and thank you for your interest. I will declare today's meeting closed at 4:05 p.m. Thank you very much.